I went ahead and just started recording. Laura and Scout, if y'all would do the same. As we go, I ask if everybody would keep their mics muted. There's a chat box over to the right on my screen. Y'all should see it on y'all's down at the bottom options. There should be a chat box option. If y'all want to ask any questions during any of the presentations, feel free to write it in there. I will keep monitoring that, and as when the presenter is done presenting, I will go through and ask some of those questions if they weren't already answered through the presentation. Hopefully more people will be trickling in, so I'm going to hand over the reins to Miss Vanessa Schontwaller. I'll let her introduce herself and get us started. She's going to be talking about marketing. So let me go over here and make you the host.
Okay.
Let's see.
So thank you for having me and providing the opportunity for me to open this workshop series. I'm going to share my presentation in a second. Okay, so Mr. Carter, do you see my first page? Okay. So I have actually a short period of time to present a lot of information, so bear with me. I'm going to be presenting some marketing essentials, the basics you need to cover, whether you're starting from scratch with your business or if you want to revamp this marketing strategy. I'll be talking about this during 15-20 minutes. And Mr. Carter, I count on you to keep me on track because I'm very talkative. And then I will use the last 15-20 minutes to present you examples of what I've been seeing in the marketing landscape nowadays for small farms, small agribusiness. So what is marketing about? The intention of designing the marketing strategy is to create a product that is going to sell. That is the notion of market-oriented versus product-oriented, and I'll get back to this notion in a minute. The whole point of designing your own marketing strategy is to implement your business plans. So the mix between your firm strategy, your marketing strategy, your sales strategy, Dr. Campbell is going to talk about, is this business plan. So whatever your mission statement is, your goals, your background, what you want to do with your business needs to be consistent with this marketing strategy that you are going to design or revamp. So what are your goals? So depending on your background, you may have had another job before you started being into farming, or you are in farming because you want to make a living out of it. So anything in between these two, you have to determine what are exactly your goals, short-term goals and long-term goals, and I'll provide some examples. So the difference between these two extremes is simple. One, the gardening part is your product-oriented, it's your passion. You're gardening for yourself, for your family. You may have another job on the side to support the cost of this activity. You also spend a lot of time, what we call opportunity cost, growing or raising animals. But there's a big difference with farming as a business, where you want to make enough profits to cover your salary on top of that, cover your worker's salary, selling higher margin products that would allow you to do so, and where you're building this relationship with your customers and partners, you're more market oriented. And like I've been saying, there is a lot of variation in between gardening and making a living, farming as a business. And it all depends on how you're going to cover your basics. What is your mission? What are your goals, short-term goals, long-term goals, and how you're going to design your firm strategy, your company strategy, your marketing strategy, your selling strategy in order to achieve these goals. So I'm going to quickly talk about the basics on how we create value when we design our marketing strategy and how we capture this value in the end. The overall goal, of course, here, and the whole point of designing, customizing this marketing strategy to our own goals and mission is to increase our market share and our profits. Target your customers. So I'll get back here. We need to know who our customers are. So who are you selling to? You're a beginning farmer. You might want to sell directly from your farm, or you have a farm stand, or you're going to farmer's market. You're selling directly to customers, and I'll get back to that too. You need to know a bunch of information about your customers. You also need to know information about your partners. I'll get back to that. And you need to customize your marketing plan, as I said, and focus on your value proposition. So where are we at? You need to collect information. You're selling at this farmer's market, for example. You have a community you're selling to. You need to know roughly what are the tastes, what are the features they're interested in. If they are interested in what are their shopping habits, how often are they shopping, what kind of products are they shopping, and again, what are the features that they're interested in, including the price that they are willing to pay for your product. You need to know also, we need to keep an eye on market trends. What are the high margin products in your industry? If you're raising animals or if you're growing fruits and vegetables, what are the products that are really working well, where there's a high demand? And this is important to keep in mind when you're going to design this marketing plan and think about the product that you're going to produce. When you're thinking about crop planning, and from 1 year to another, you might switch one product for the other because one is working better than the other. You might have also a diversified portfolio of products, the ones that are really having a high turnover, selling a lot, and the ones who are more of what we call specialty crops that are selling less, but are differentiating your business from your competitors. So popular features, high margin products, and the last important information you need to have information about is your competitors. Direct competitors, other farmers doing roughly the same. Indirect competitors, who are they? Retail stores selling the same products, not in the same frame. So I'm going fast, sorry, to cover these points. So we need to know our customers, who we want to sell to. Customers at farmers market, but we might want to also sell to wholesalers, aggregators, if we have the production capacity, if we have the offering that will fit with their needs, and also to retail stores, same, if we can comply with their requirements. So it's where we have the fit between our company resources, what we're able to produce, what we're able to offer, and the customer needs, whoever this customer is. And on top of this feat that we need to keep in mind when we're establishing our what we call target market, we don't want to step too much on our competitors' toes. So as you can see here on this diagram, our target is, ideal target market is preferably away from our competitors. Know your partners. This is something that is often not discussed, and I think as important as knowing your customers, especially when you're starting farming, or if you're producing a small amount on 2 acres, 5 acres, for example, where you need maybe an association and collaboration with other businesses for cross-advertising, co-sales. engage in the same type of programs, health wellness programs, give back programs, and maybe engage in a more fruitful cooperation, collaboration when we're sharing equipment, labor, marketing costs, advertising, and access to wholesale. So like food hubs, movements, farm, CSA, community supported agriculture. This type of cooperation were born from the need to share experience and share equipment and facilities in order to access this wholesale market that needs a bigger quantity that we're able as a single farmer to produce. Establish your value proposition. So we know, once we know who we're going to sell to, final consumer, people like me who are going to the supermarket purchasing their fruits and vegetables, their meat, or wholesalers or retailer, we need to have this value proposition that is going to be somewhat different from our competitors, that is going to put our product in a better position in our buyer's mind relatively to competing products. So what is our competitive advantage? There's a lot to think about when we think about our value proposition. And again, this is really quickly said. We need to balance what are our skills? What is the benefit of what we're making? What is the difference with the major difference, or maybe two major differences with what our competitors are doing? And we'll see some examples after. And what are our customers' needs? So the customers' needs are very diversified nowadays. We have a lot of convenience, demand for convenience. We like to have a one-stop shopping where we can get everything that we need. So that's why supermarkets are very convenient, this kind of thing. So how are we competing when we are selling only one product meaning one category of product, fruits and vegetables, or meat or cereals, whatever we're making, processed value-added products. What can we add to our production to make it more attractive for our customers? And I'm going to provide some example again about this. So quickly, the marketing plan, I'm sure you've heard about the 4 Ps, 5 Ps. So I'm going to quickly brush these 4 or 5 items in terms of what kind of decisions do we need to make when we're thinking about these. Our product's not just our product. So I'm growing tomatoes, I'm growing herbs, I'm growing flowers. This is the core of my product. But surrounding the core of this product, I can add features that my customers are going to like, that are going to differentiate my product. I can have a special environmental friendly packaging that differentiates my product from the others. I can have labeling that says I'm complying with requirements that are also environmentally friendly, or that are providing benefits for my customers. And again, I'm going to provide example on that. So everything you see here is attached to your product and needs to be consistent with your mission and your goal and your value proposition that you're selling to your consumers, whoever they are. Major decisions here that are highlighted are the branding, labeling, and service. So what I've seen, especially for small agribusiness ventures, farming or food processing, is the branding strategy is very important, and I'll explain why in a minute. labeling strategy, and the service. So how far do you go to satisfy your customers? Price. So I'm gonna just touch this quickly, since Dr. Campbell is gonna be more exhaustive about this part. Think about price as only part of your marketing plan that is gonna bring you something that you can actually weigh your profits. So it's one of the most important elements in this. Everything is important, don't get me wrong, but this price needs to be set up right. And I'll let Dr. Campbell explain more what is this about. But this is going to set your market share and your profitability for long term. So quickly, you need this price to be above your product cost, of course, and below the maximum perceived value of your product by consumers. So everything in between needs to be well informed, so you can set up this price at the right level for your customers and at the right level for you to make enough profits and make a living out of selling your products. Placement or distribution channels. What do you want to do? Again, this goes back to knowing your customers. So do you want to sell directly to final consumers, the ones who are going to use your product? Or do you want to sell to intermediaries like wholesalers, aggregators, and retailers, whoever will have also his marketing strategy to sell to the final customer and might interfere not only with your profits, but also with your marketing strategy, especially with your branding strategy. It's more difficult to advertise your farm brand through wholesalers and retailers than when you're advertising it directly to your customers, direct customers. So an example of a food supply chain selling also for wholesale and institutional markets. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Promotion. So once you determine what kind of product, what kind of value proposition you're going to sell, who you're going to sell to, at what price point, you don't want to send the wrong message. And there's a lot of promotional tools out there. Between advertising on social media or advertising in newspaper, local newspaper, making rack cards or flyers, having a personal selling strategy, all the way to public relations. And we need, in order to clarify all this promotional aspect, again, we need to know who we're talking to, which generation, which gender, and which community. Who are we talking to, and on what platform are we going to talk to them? Facebook, Square are platforms that are really working well for small farmers. Because they're, well, Square is not free, but Facebook is free, and provide a lot of tools already to be able to engage a conversation with the customers and also do business on their platform. Now, we might want to mix that also with other ads on newspapers, local magazines, add some business cards, rack cards to explain who we are, and maybe all the way to emails. So we can collect emails at farmers markets, whichever way we can do it, and send information to our customers. The fifth P that is often forgotten also, but very powerful, is yourself. You're selling your products and you know what you're talking about better than anybody else. And I have a lot of examples that I could talk about, but I don't have the time so much. these persons were going directly to retail stores selling their products because it was their story, it was their product, they made it, and they actually hired people to make their products, and they could concentrate on selling this product. So to sum it up, know your customers, your partners, who you can associate with, especially when you're starting or when you're too small to reach some bigger market that you would like to reach. Focus on your value proposition. What is your competitive advantage? What do you make better than your competitors? Or how can you associate with some of your partners and create this value proposition? And how can you build relationship and collaborations in order to capture value? So I think I'm on track for time level. Few tips for the marketing landscape for small agribusiness nowadays, including the latest events, of course, the short-term boom, potential boom in sales for local farmers. So I'm going to talk about direct marketing and sales and local commitment. This is the path that a lot of farmers have been following, building this relationship with their local community, knowing their local community really well, and building this string on a long-term base. Differentiating your product, some examples of value proposition that farmers have been using. Cooperation, collaboration with local partners, provide one example, and then how to build this customer's relationship. Probably the hardest part, because this is a long term, and you don't necessarily know which customers are going to follow you, be loyal to you in the first place. So you have to keep going at getting information about these customers and keep building this relationship. So direct marketing, what are we talking about? Farmers market, community supported agriculture, UP cooperation, agritourism, farm to school programs, selling online, and over the past few months, what has been really booming were the online sales, pick up at location for CSA, because a lot of farmers market were closed. Home delivery also for farmers who could get a truck or associate with other farmers to get this truck and provide home delivery, knowing that also a lot of customers were willing to pay more for this home delivery, and more collaboration among farmers. So the question in the air is this going to last? Because this has been profitable for a lot of farmers. So is this going to last, and how do we make it last? And that goes back to what you're offering, and how is this going to be beneficial for your customers? They're gonna prefer it compared to what they were doing before, like they were maybe buying at Publix, Kroger before March this year, and now they're paying for a CSA for the whole season. How do we make them coming back next year? And this is first, the characteristics the characteristics are in what we are offering. So how different is our product in terms of maybe labeling or value added and so on. But also remember, in the positioning, it's like this collaboration that we have with customers might be encouraging a bonding between local consumers and the local farmers. And that's something that cannot be done by a retailer or a wholesaler. The person who is producing and meeting with the person who is consuming is something that is part of the value proposition. So other examples, growing or raising sustainably, organically, growing specialty crops, things that are going to be different from what you find at your local supermarket. So of course you're going to need to label your products and show that this is what you're doing. You're going to have to tell also your customers what you're doing. So through advertising and promotional tools. Your branding, also work on your farm brand that is consistent with what you're offering and your mission, add value to your products, and of course, increase your capacity maybe to offer your products to more consumers and reach your goals in terms of profitability. It's an ongoing process. I'm going to provide some examples. There might be more out there, but this is what I see here in the state of Georgia, and that is working for a lot of farmers. So sustainable marketing, the challenges that the agri-food world is facing, especially over the past 2 or 3 months. I think we get a pretty good idea of how the supply chain can quickly go a little bit sideways. So feeding the population, climate change, conservation of natural resources, preserving our environment. If part of your mission is doing that, well, so say it and advertise it, because a lot of customers nowadays are interested in doing just that, helping organizations, farmers, anyone who would be involved in preserving our environment and our ecosystem. For example, Mayflow Farms is advertising on their website that they would like to build a locally sustainable future for themselves and their community, and to ensure food security and education. So this is their mission, and this is how also they built their offering. All their products are here's some information. All their products are based on this value proposition, this being sustainable. They label their products saying that they take care of their soul and the environment and the wildlife, and that their products are, of course, naturally grown, and this sort of things. So the message needs to be sent out, whatever you're doing, organic, sustainable, specialty, the message needs to be clear and loud. This is, again, your value proposition should show it. You might have a portfolio of other plants, tomatoes and bell peppers that are bringing more money than this specialty that you're making, but you're still selling this whole package, this vision of it, the farm respecting its environment and engaging with its community. Then the portfolio of product beside needs to be consistent with your strategy, of course, but the value proposition is really what you use for your advertising and to show that you're different. Labeling, as you can see here as an example, is mainly for value-added products, but there's a lot of choice out there depending on what consumers are searching for. We can't put them all on our product. Here, again, we'll have to make a decision and remember what I was talking about the marketing plan, the product, and what we put around our product, our brand, our labeling. Again, depending on who we're selling to, what is our value proposition, we'll have to determine what kind of labeling we're going to put on our product. So we might want to put USDA organic or certified naturally grown, non-GMO projects, and things that customers are going to expect from our products, even though it comes directly from the farm, to reassure them that we're complying with the requirements that are expected for this kind of labeling, and show that we are consistent with our overall marketing strategy. Georgia grown. So I had that question also in the questionnaire that you fill out when you signed up. Georgia grown, Athens locally grown, this kind of labeling, and I'm going to provide some numbers after, like Dr. Campbell will not agree with certified naturally grown. These are really popular nowadays. Just the fact that we're all part of the same community, the same state, is an advantage. Definitely. It's a lot of studies about the willingness to pay for these labels are showing that, you know, if you compare USDA organic or even certified naturally grown to Georgia grown, Athens locally grown, actually may weigh the same. And it costs less to put Athens locally grown, Augusta locally grown, whichever, or Georgia grown than USDA organic. So again, this is how you design your marketing strategy according to what your offering is, what your value proposition is. A greener world also has a lot of different labels. There are a lot of things out there because consumers are interested in all sorts of things. So we need to sort that out, and we can only sort that out if we know better who is buying our product and who we're partnering with. So like I said, Georgia grown, locally grown is very popular. And all the surveys that I've been doing at farmers markets or for Georgia grown show that people care about supporting the local farmers. This is one of the major reasons that consumers would buy directly from a local farm. Organic also has some success, but not as much as you would expect, as you could expect. And again, Dr. Campbell can talk more about this. Depending on the communities, the areas you would sell to, maybe it won't, maybe it would, but maybe it wouldn't make such a difference with locally grown labeling. Non-GMO, definitely not a killer. Doesn't show that much difference, especially when you're selling directly at farmers market or to final customers. Grass-fed, free range, cage-free for animal production is definitely becoming more popular as well. Your farm branding, 2 words about your farm branding. Actually, we could spend more time talking about this. But think about this. How do you differentiate your tomato from your competitor's tomato? How do you differentiate your product from your competitor's product at a farmer's market? So this is it. That's why you have a brand. And if you're not a brand, you are a commodity. So this branding strategy is essential when you would like to build this relationship, then loyalty, then retention. That means consumers are going to be keep buying from you in the long term. This builds consumer engagement with an attachment with your brand. So there's a lot into branding strategy, more than I'm going to say here. If you already have a brand, you probably know how powerful this brand can be and how we can work more on advertising this brand beyond labeling product and value proposition. In the end, it's what consumers are going to keep in their mind. This is your brand. So if I'm going to a supermarket, to the cereal box department that is 1 mile away long, how do I pick my preferred cereal box? There's so much choice. So that's the same for all products. How do we pick the product when we have so much choice? The brand is going to be one of the few factors that people are going to remember. and they're going to come back to. And brand inspires customers. So I like this. It's quite old now, Bursting with Life from Del Monte. I think it's a really great way to talk about vegetables and in a can and sold at supermarkets. Really not that attractive when it's in the can, but with an advertising like this, I think it's quite inspiring. Plus to say it's grown in America, picked and packed at the peak of ripeness, and it's very fresh, of course. So of course they're kind of distorting their reality, but that's how what sticks to my mind after that is Del Monte and this nice green beans, you know. Another example with Dreaming Cow, Happy Moo, Happy You, easy to remember. And I'm gonna remember this funny cow from the pot maybe more than the yogurt. In the end, of course, the characteristic of the product, cream top yogurt, a lot of fat. This is what I like. I like sugar, I like cream. So I'm going to be like, this is so much better, more expensive, but so much better than the other brands that I don't like. So I'm going to, you know, stick with this brand. Value-added products. There are different ways to sell a product. If you are doing fresh and processed, if you have the possibility. I had a question about rules and regulation, and at the end I'm going to provide some resources. Georgia Department of Ag has a lot of information about food safety and the requirements that you need to fulfill to sell processed products. Some are low risk, like jam, jellies, things like that. You don't need to comply with as many requirements, just so you know. And there are, this is part also of what can differentiate your product. There are different ways to sell your product, and not necessarily a very complex way, just another way to present it, a different assortment or a little recipe that can be used to show what is the extent of your skills, what is your offering, and these are high margin products. So that's why also I'm showing it that you can sell these at a much higher price than if you were selling just without packaging or without anything. Partners relationship, quickly, I would like to invite you to visit Collective Harvest, fence.com website. It's the multi-farm CSA. They've been really successful, and I forgot his name. Alex is the one of the pioneer of this multi-farm CSA, and like I said, they've been really successful. Are crop planning together, reaching the level of offering that all the farms needed to make a living out of their activity and support local communities, because they're also involved with UGA Kitchen, all sorts of health and wellness program, giving back programs. And I think they were doing also a little bit of wholesale. So they reached that level of collaboration that is very exemplary in this category of selling. Customer relationship, quickly, I'm running out of time. Your whole objective, you have two objectives when you're designing or revamping a marketing strategy. You want to make more profit, you want to grow your business, but you also want to keep your customers and partners, into parentheses, we don't want to forget about those, highly satisfied. Satisfaction drives loyalty, and loyalty drives profitability and growth. So how do we do that quickly? Spread the word around. Use social media and spread the good word. Satisfied customers will tell a lot of their friends, but not as many as the angry customers would. So what do we talk about? We talk about what do they care about? Why do they care about our business? What is it that they like with our business? How can we make it better for them? How can we be innovative from time to time? How do we, keep the machine running in the long term? And how can we how can we improve our product or our service? Remember, it's not just necessarily about our product, but it could be what do we offer beside this product. And for that, there's only one way. You won't find any studies about what's going on at Athens Farmers Market or what Kinsale Farmers Market. You need to talk to your customers if you're selling directly to final customers. You need to talk to other farmers, market managers. You need to talk, if you want to sell to aggregators, you need to talk to aggregators. What are their needs, or how do we improve this offering? So word of mouth, should have put that before. Social media are free. We have to be careful how to use them, but shortly, this is one of the best way to have the word circulating. I've at least been listening, I think 2 weeks ago, to a farmer who's been saying that he didn't have that much to do to advertise his business. He was already selling at a farmer's market, so some folks already knew him. And then he started saying, well, I have more to sell if anyone is interested in, because supermarkets were short 2 months ago. And then the people who were following him started to spread the word around. And then they knew where to find him, pick up at the farm or pick up at the location, at the farmer's market that was closed. So eventually it worked without so much effort. People are finding what they want. Now the question is, again, how do we make it long-term? So we're going to use this brand, and we're going to use the personality of our brand and the relationship that we started with our customers, our new customers, to make sure they're going to stick with us for a longer time. And again, we don't know who is going to be loyal to us at the beginning, but we want to aim to that. So we are going to use less informative content like price, availability, product features, and more this discussion, maybe about our value proposition, maybe about sustainability, maybe even about, this supply chain of fresh products that went wrong during the crisis, and how do we make this relationship work, because we know, a lot of people want convenience. They want a one-stop shop where they can find everything. But we can, make it happen still with home delivery, online sales, whatever works. We have to be a little innovative using, of course, tools, online tools and payments online, these kind of things that are going to be more easy for our customers. At customers, for customers' experience also, I was thinking farmers market or farm stand when I was writing that. The layout, the display, the atmosphere, the customer service is very, very important. You want to make the best first impression, generating this wall effects, because this is how you get the first time customer to come back a second time, confirm that he was highly satisfied with what you were selling, with also your value proposition, what you were offering, the whole package, the farm, your brand, your the way you raise animals, the way you grow fruits and vegetables, and they're going to come back. There's this sense of, in the end, there's this relationship between the customers that want to support is local farmer, because we're all part of the same community, and the farmer who also want to spread the word about how better he's doing compared to, for example, retail or whatever, and of course eventually make a living out of it. So we want to engage our customers. It starts with the experience, then we need to progressively get to this point where your customer is going to be loyal to your brand as customers are be loyal to big companies' brands. So to sum it up, you need to create a customized, custom-made marketing strategy for your own business, knowing what are your skills, what are your goals, what is your value proposition, how you compete well with other farmers, and also indirect competitors like retail stores. And this is, your objective is to, of course, attract these customers and then keep and grow these customers, so increase your market share and your profits. Some reading, things that I've been using over the past 5 years to at least build the theoretical part, then the rest is the experience with farmers, and answering also the question about where to find marketing information. You can check the Ag Marketing Resource Center. They have a lot of information. Again, if you're selling at the farmer's market, it's more difficult as you go smaller and smaller in terms of markets. It's more difficult to find information, and you need to talk to the actual customers, or, like I said, market managers. They know better their community and what's going on. Georgia Department of Ag has a lot of information about the rules when you go for retail or when you sell at farmers markets, food safety, and other things like that. And I think I've been around most of the questions. Thank you for listening to me. And Mr. Carter.
That was great, Miss Vanessa.
Thank you.
I will say that those resources are great. Some of those I've looked at myself, taking some of your courses, getting exposed to it while I was in college. And the Georgia Department of Ag, I'm glad you went ahead and posted these on here. Later, it's actually next week, they will be, the Georgia Department of Ag will be speaking, and they will touch on some of those frequently asked questions, talk about some of the licensing and things like that. So it's good foreshadowing there. But I wanted to open it up to any questions for Ms. Schonkweiler. If y'all want to unmute and ask the question, you can. Or if you would like to type it in the box, feel free to do so. And if we don't have any questions for Ms. Schonkweiler, her all the slides that she presented, marketing. Oh wait, yep, great information. Thank you. If you if it was a little too fast or you came in a little late, don't worry. We're going to have all of the slides sent out to y'all through a PDF after tonight's session, so don't worry about that. Marketing is one of those things that you can spend a long time talking about, and you really need to. It's one of those that 45 minutes is tough, but you did a great job, Miss Vanessa.
Thank you.
Now shifting gears, Dr. Campbell, he's going to piggyback off Miss Vanessa's awesome start and try to close us out. Dr. Campbell is going to speak on the selling side of things a little bit more in depth. So I'm going to turn that over to him and get started.
share screen, Blake, or let me share screen.
Yeah, give me 1 second. All right, let's see if you can now.
Let's see. There it is. Is it up?
Yep, that's good.
All right. What are you seeing, the whole screen, or are you seeing a box and screen?
I'm seeing the box and the screen.
All right, let me reshare the screen real quick. There we go. Is that better?
Yep, you're good.
All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. So my name is Ben Campbell. I am an extension specialist at UGA. Primarily I deal with nursery, greenhouse, and turf, but I've done other things in my career. A little background, sort of where I came from. I grew up on a cattle farm in Alabama. Then I've worked with specialty crop producers mainly in Texas, Ontario, Canada, Connecticut, and now Georgia, but with other firms throughout the U.S. And Canada. Most of my work deals with sales and marketing realm, especially helping businesses launch or learn more about the marketing for their products and on both their own and in larger or smaller retail stores. So that's sort of where I'm at and what I've done in the last 15 so years. So for today, what I want to focus on is, there we go, types of markets, potential places you may sell your product. I want to talk about the pros and cons of each. There's a plethora of ways you can sell your product and where you can sell it. I'm going to take some of the biggest ones and go through the pros and cons that you may not have thought about. Then talk about selling to each market and how to sell to each, looking at sort of the different segments or different types of consumers that may be in each of those markets. And then we're going to spend some time looking at pricing, because I think one of the biggest things that I get questions about, and then I got questions about and leading up to this, was how to price my product. So we're going to do a little bit on different ways you can think about pricing, and I'll give you a sort of an equation or formula to start out with to help you in that realm. So that's where we're going over the next little bit, is looking at markets and then moving and transitioning into pricing. So the first thing I think that you need to think about as you develop your business, or as you put it together, or as you think about the business you already have, is what is the product you're selling? Right? What exactly are you selling? What do you offer that someone else does not? Right? And why are you different? Right? So what is that thing that makes your product different than someone else? As you can see, there are two apples on the bottom of the screen. There is something that makes those different. The thing that's different is one has a leaf and one does not. Right? Will people pay extra for, or will people prefer your product because there's a leaf on it? Probably not, right? So what are those things that make you different, that will add value to your product, that you are different than someone else? You need to answer this question accurately. What we say a lot of times is that I talk to businesses and their first impression is, well, my product is better than everyone else's. And so it's that bias that goes in there that, people don't answer that question, why the product is different or what makes it better or what makes it unique. People don't answer that question in an accurate way. They put their own biases towards it. So you really need to take a step back and understand what your product is and how you are different, or how you are unique compared to another product out there that you're competing against. Because that drives everything else. If you know what your product is, then you can figure out who's going to buy it. You can figure out where you're going to sell it, how you're going to market it. So that first step of understanding your product is probably one of the most critical things you can do to set yourself up for success. Value comes in different ways. There are tangible and intangible benefits. Tangible being those things you can see and touch. Intangible are those things that you can't see, but maybe that is your business. You have good customer service, or you have a reputation that you've built up. Those are things that add value to your product that maybe you can lean on to either extract more money with respect to higher price, or you can get people to buy your product because they see there's value there outside of that traditional product you have. So people, when they make the decision on what to buy, they're basing it on a couple of things. One is, what are the benefits and what are the costs, right? What is the benefit I'm getting and what is the cost I'm giving up? the cost is I'm giving up money to buy your product. I only buy if the value, the benefit I'm getting from your product is greater than some other alternative, right? So that's what you, just understanding what your product is and how you should now position it is based on what your product is, what's the value created, and how does that benefit relate to cost. And people define value, benefits, and cost differently. But, I mean, you need to do your best to try to understand what are those benefits, what are the costs, and so it helps, because it can help you make decisions, better decisions, when you go think about pricing, promotion, and things like that. So there are a whole bunch of different markets out there, you know, and this is just a couple. You can sell your product on the farm. You can do a farmer's market, independent retailers, big box stores, mass merchandisers, restaurants, online. There's a host of other things. You can sell to prisons. You can sell to school systems. I mean, so there's a lot of different markets. These are probably the most common ones that I want to touch on, you know, but again, if you have questions about the others, we can address those as well. So what are the pros and cons? Let's start with on the farm. On the farm is one of the probably the easiest ways that, or the ways that most people start when they do in some kind of ag product. They start selling on the farm, especially if it's not one of the traditional, one of the field crops such as corn, cotton, soybeans. You know, specialty crops, fruit and vegetable, those type generally start on the farm or farmer market route. Pros, you can establish a relationship with your clientele, right? You're going to talk to them. They're going to come into your farm and they are going to interact with you, and they are going to learn about what you do. They're going to learn about your family. They're going to learn all those things because you're establishing that relationship because they're with you as a part of this. Easier logistics, right? So generally compared to other market outlets, you have a lot less transportation required. You're transporting your crop from the field to some centralized place on your farm, and that's where you're selling it. Whereas if you go to a box store or somewhere like that, you're having to transport it to a distribution center or to a store. And so, I mean, from an on-farm perspective, a pro is that from a startup standpoint, that it's easier logistically because you don't have to worry about getting it to and from a different location. Everything's contained on the farm for the most part. No contract to supply. With on the farm, you produce it and you sell what you have. Whereas if you go to other outlets such as the big box stores, you have to supply so much quantity at certain time periods. So if all your apples or all your peaches come in at a certain time, then it's going to be harder if you have a contract with a larger retailer if they require that supply is drawn out over time. Generally on farm, no contract to supply. You produce it and you sell it as you go. Potential price premiums, again, on the farm, generally people are coming there for a reason. They're supporting local. They think you have better quality. So generally they will, but there's a potential there for price premiums for your product. Again, that's directly in relation to the competition. If the guy next to you is selling peaches for $1 and you try to sell for $5, that may be an issue. So again, there's potential for price premiums for selling on the farm, but it has to be in relation to some kind of the competition around you. And you can't be out of line with what others are offering. I mean, even if I'm coming to buy something from you and you're 150% above what I can buy at a retail store, I may buy it at a retail store. Or I may not come back at the next time. I may buy from you this time, but I may not come back in the future. So there is that potential for the price premiums. You just have to be aware of what's going on in the market. On the farm, you control your brand. If you have a brand name, you control it. You control the pricing. You can move price up and down as you see fit. You control marketing, where and how you market your product. You control all that. So it gives you flexibility to do things that in other types of market outlets you're not going to be able to do. There are cons with selling on the farm. Liability is one of the big issues there of selling on the farm. One, destruction of crop, right? So if I come in and, you know, I'm selling you pick, so I'm selling you pick apples, you pick peaches, or something along those lines, and someone comes in and they pick and they discard that's half of what they pick, then that is shrinkage that you're incurring with respect to that destruction of crop that you're not going to receive any kind of monetary gain from because they have basically destroyed it. There's also liability of injury, right? Injury, someone comes on your farm and they get hurt, now you're being sued. So again, there is that con there. One is bringing them on the farm is good, you establish that relationship, but the con is, I mean, you're establishing that injury. Why is that? Why is that something you should be aware of? Because you're going to be paying insurance costs and things of that nature to protect you against things happening. So there are costs there. Those costs are something you need to think about, especially when we talk about pricing, or when you talk about later on enterprise budgeting in the next couple of weeks. Those are things that are going to go in those columns for cost that you need to be aware of. Cost of marketing, extra labor, facilities to handle own farm consumer. Cost of marketing, you've got to handle all those costs. The big box store is not doing it. You're having to go out and get people to come to your farm. Extra labor to man the on the farm, wherever your retail space. Those are things that you're going to have. Facilities to handle own farm consumers. You've got to have a place for them to park. You've got to have a place for them to go to the bathroom. Those type of things are things that you got to think about with respect to going on into a different market or going into on farm sales. Limited number of consumers. Everyone's not coming to your on farm location. There are a certain group of people that are going to come. Some of those are convenience. I drive by and I see it. Others are going to be those who specifically are hunting out these opportunities for on the farm, either agritourism or on the farm you pick, or on the farm buying from directly from farmer for whatever reason. So limited number of consumers. You don't have the as many consumers coming to on the farm as you do other retail outlets. So again, that price premium you're getting is offsetting the lower number of customers you're picking up with the price premium, hopefully to offset those having a lower number of consumers come through. Con, even though I said it was a pro a minute ago, control over brand pricing and marketing, your con is you're controlling your brand pricing and marketing. So anything you do, any mistakes you make, it's harder to recover from those. So you don't have a marketing team that is like, say, Walmart or Kroger have, that are helping sell your product. You have yourself or someone that you have on your farm doing these things. So the potential for mistakes here is quite a bit greater than if you truly chose another outlet. Another thing is you need to have adequate supply to serve your consumers. If I drive out to your farm and you are out of what I came for, I'm not coming back. Case in point, we lived in Ontario, Canada for years, and there was a U-Pick apple farm outside of Toronto. We called and said, hey, do you have apples we can bring our kids up and U-Pick? And they said, sure, come on up. We got there and there were no apples to U-Pick. They had sold out, and with respect to their fields. So we didn't go back because I had a bad experience. And so again, if you have adequate supply, you need to have an adequate supply to serve consumers that you're going to have something available for them to purchase when they came out to get it. So again, those are the pros and cons of on the farm. There are others, but those are some of the big ones you need to think about. Establish that relationship with clientele. I'm guessing most of you have probably been to a farmer's market at some point, and you walk around, you talk with the people that are producing the product, and you're discussing about the crops, you're discussing about the product they have, so you're establishing that relationship. So again, farmers market's a way that you can connect with clientele that generally will come back repeatedly. This is a group that is coming in, they're coming weekly to buy. So you have that chance to have them repeatedly come back and reestablish that relationship and let it grow. Somewhat easier logistics compared to other places. You will need to transport your product to the farmer's market in some form or fashion, whether that requires something that's cold. So if you're selling meat at a farmer's market, you're going to have some kind of truck with a freezer on it or some kind of freezer space. You're going to have electricity if you don't have a truck to, so all of those are things that you'll need, but it is potentially easier logistics than trying to coordinate going to 5 different stores to deliver your product. No contract supply, you take what you want to sell, and by and large, that's what you're doing. There's no contract like at a big box store where you're supplying over a certain number of weeks. Potential for price premiums, again, people are coming there expecting local product. They're coming to a farmer's market expecting higher quality. They're expecting those things, and generally they will pay a higher price. Not for all goods. There's been studies that show that between retail outlets and big box stores and farmers markets, price premiums fluctuate with the type of commodity, even so much as fluctuating within commodities. So tomatoes, depending on what type of variety you're selling, on average, some varieties sell are more expensive at farmers markets, and some are more expensive at big box stores. So understanding the market is one of the things you're gonna have to do throughout all this, is to figure out where you need to price your product. But by and large, there is a potential there for some price premiums on some of your products you may sell. You control your brand and pricing. Again, you show up and I control what I charge. I control the brand, how I message it, all those things. One thing I don't have that I did it on the farm that's a pro is I don't really have to do the marketing for this, right? The marketing people in charge of the farmers market, they're marketing to get people out. So you don't have to do the marketing, but I am in control of the brand and pricing when people come in and try to buy from me at the farmers market. I do have access to larger demand, potentially than on farm, because again, these are generally separate urban areas or areas with higher concentration of people. So I'm pulling generally a more larger crowd to the farmers market. Cons: cost of extra labor and or to transport, right? Compared to going to a on the farm, I may have to hire extra workers to go. If there's multiple farmers markets at the same day and time, I may have to hit several farmers markets to make ends meet. So I'm gonna have to do extra labor to work retail my product at those farmers markets. I'm gonna have to do the extra dollars to pay for that transport. And your time does count because you're the owner and you go out and do it. That doesn't mean it's free. That means that you need to account for your time as a cost, and so there is cost there comparatively. Limited number of consumers compared to other retail outlets. There are, compared to like Walmart or other places, you are gonna have limited number of consumers compared to at the farmers market. Again, you control the brand and pricing. So I mean, it's easy for to make mistakes and it's hard to recover them. If you charge too much, nobody buys. That's a mistake you made that that's a con for selling at farmers markets. You don't control the retail hours. You have to be there when the farmers market's open. And generally, most producers who do farmers markets and make a living doing that, they aren't just going to one. They're going to multiple, 3, 4, and 5 farmers markets around the state to make ends meet. So again, don't think this is most likely not a one-off. I go to one farmers market and I sell my product and I'm done. You're probably hitting several farmers markets in a week, every week to make ends meet and sell your product. All right, independent retailers. There are potential for price premiums here. Generally, less of a premium than for local products than larger retailers. So again, as you get bigger and bigger outlets, the price premiums potentially get to go down. If you notice in stores, generally local products don't carry a premium in retail outlets, especially the big ones. So you're gaining access to larger demand. I am getting more people access to my product and the ability to buy it. And so that potential premium I don't get, I'm getting access to larger demand. Cons: little control over brand and pricing. I put it in the store and generally the store does a lot of the marketing for it in the store, especially if you're small. If you're a large national brand, then you can do marketing outside of that. If you're not, you have a little bit less control over brand and a lot less control over pricing because the retailer is going to sort of push pricing on you what they want. You may have a supply contract. I may have to deliver so much quantity at certain times of the week, and so that may be an issue. If all your peaches come in or all your plants come in a certain day, and I'm ready to get rid of them, and I have a supply contract, then I need to sort of space it out. I'm most likely only getting paid for what I sell, and me as a producer, I am eating the cost of shrinkage. So if I sell it and I get whatever that margin is, they sold it for, what it costs. I'm getting that margin there on what I sold it to the firm for, the cost of me selling it to them. But I'm eating some of the shrinkage costs, those things that don't sell. I'm having to eat those. And this is sort of across the board with most products, is the firm eats the shrinkage costs. If I don't sell it, it's retailers, then I don't get paid. I may have exact product specifications. I may have to do certain things in packaging. I may have to do certain things in how I production practices I do. All those things may be things that I may have the extra cost for me that I may take on if I want to go and get access to larger markets and go to independent retailers. If I want to go to box stores, mass merchandisers, the big gain here is I get access to demand. And retailer is by and large, they do a lot of the marketing and merchandising the product in some form or fashion. So again, I mean, you're going to be responsible for some of it, but they're going to try to put you in a situation that your product succeeds. Cons, no control over brand and pricing again. You will most likely have a supply contract with strict deadlines that you have 1,000 pounds this week, 1,000 pounds next week, and 1,000 pounds the week after, or some form or fashion of volume, and also grade. So if you're selling product and it has grades or quality levels, I'm going to set forth what exactly I want. If you don't meet that, there are penalties that you have to incur. I only get paid for what is sold. I'm meeting costs of shrinkage. I'm going to have exact product specifications, such as product size, specific packaging, etc. If I'm selling to a lower income store, or a store that is lower income consumers are shopping at, I may have to bag my citrus. Higher income stores, no bags. They're more of a loose fruit. They understand, the retail outlets understand their markets, and they understand what's going to sell. And so I can put bag citrus that have some form of blemish on them with respect to on the exterior, but higher income stores, they have to be perfect fruit, and thereby also higher income stores, I mean, the specifications there are going to be different depending on where you're shopping or where you're selling your product. And again, the bigger the stores or the bigger the types of areas have more access to demand, they're going to have more product specifications. So let's say that you want to sell to prisons. Prisons, great place to sell product. Sell it to the state. There is a inmates are eating 3 meals a day. They have to have certain requirements nutritional wise. So, it's a captive market, and with respect to access with big demand. The issue there is product specifications. You have to have it delivered on certain times. Product size has to be perfectly uniform. I was in Texas working with a farm that was trying to sell into prisons, and what they found was that they wanted to sell small little clementine type fruit, satsumas, into prisons, and they had to be all exactly the same. If one was larger than the next, then they had a fight that would occur in the prison. One inmate would try to take the fruit from another inmate. So again, as you look to these larger access markets, these markets have larger access to demand. The amount of regulations or requirements that you get are going to go up. More product specifications, product size, specific packaging. That firm also in Texas was thinking about selling grapefruit into schools. Well, schools would not take it a whole grapefruit. They would not take a half grapefruit. Everything had to be quartered or less. The reason was that they did not want a student getting a whole grapefruit or a half grapefruit and launching it across the cafeteria and hitting another student in the head, which was a liability for the school. So again, as you think about these other markets, there are going to be product specifications that you're going to have to deal with that you have to account for in cost that may offset that access to larger demand. So you may get more, you may sell more, but it may cost to make those sales. Restaurants, pros guaranteed demand by and large. You're selling, chef will tell you, excuse me, that I need so many pounds a week, and you deliver it. They may be willing to take secondhand product. So not lower quality with respect to they're going to take rotten fruit or rotten whatever, but there's secondhand with respect to they may take some of the blemishes on it. If I'm going to pull in a apple and it has a little blemish on it, it was color discoloration, then as a restaurant, I'm okay with that because I'm going to peel it and use it in some kind of something in one of my recipes. So again, they may be willing to take secondhand product. I can build demand if partner with a restaurant to mention your product. A lot of times you'll see restaurants that'll say we're partnered with such and such farm to get our product. That establishes the local nature of your product. It establishes that relationship back. Restaurants also offer opportunity to get creative. When I was in Canada, there was a producer that grew his own, basically created his own salsa. He grew his own tomatoes. He grew his all of his salsa ingredients, his own onions, his own tomatillos, his peppers, and everything. He created his own salsa, and he sold it through restaurants, and they were more than happy to pay him good money for it because he thought outside the box and came up with his own product to sell to a restaurant that could now market. They were selling a locally produced salsa that would benefit their restaurant as well. Cons, they may have a supply contract that you do so much per week and for so long. may have exact product specifications with what they need, how it's delivered, and they may want a price less than on the farmer you can get on the farm or farmers markets. Again, there may be less of a potential for price premiums for a firm that's buying, for a restaurant that's making something out of the product you're selling them. But again, this may offer you opportunity to get rid of your secondhand fruit, or your secondhand product is selling to on the farm, by selling to a restaurant. So you can sell your premium product in other places, and the secondhand may go to a restaurant. To open up you 2 avenues to sell products. Online, you have access to a larger demand. Your demand's roughly infinite. You're in charge of your own branding and pricing. So if you do it well, then, and marketing as well, if you do it well, then you can succeed. Issues though are logistics. Where exactly are you selling your product? I mean, how exactly are you getting your product and selling it? Are you now going to contract with UPS? Or are you going to make deliveries, get UPS to pick it up, or whatever company you're going to use? How are you going to guarantee that if you have delivery issues? What if someone's not happy? How do you deal with that? If delivery is not on time, right? So these are cons that make, even though you have this access to larger markets, that you really need to think about how are you going to now access these markets, and how are you going to handle issues as they arise. Customers are more likely to be one-off. No relationship, especially if customer is the end consumer. If I'm shopping online and I'm doing Google search, or I'm doing based on price, these aren't constantly the lowest price or whatever, then how do you deal with that? With these one-off consumers, you're constantly trying to get that next consumer to come in. There can be no lag in ordering online. You have to respond immediately. If I say, hey, I want to do an order and I want it delivered in the next couple of days, you can't wait, and you have to be on top of that, and which will make small businesses, or those businesses just starting out, online could be tricky because you really have to be on top of things, and keep everything up to date, so that you don't disappoint or get bad reviews online. Again, you're in charge of marketing. So why is that a con? Because how and where do you market? Are you doing Facebook? Are you doing online? Is what sort of like, as Vanessa was saying, are you doing other places? How are you getting them online to buy from you? Issues that can come out with selling online. If I'm selling a product at a independent retail, smaller retailer, and now I'm selling online, I may be cannibalizing that producer, that guy, whoever that person is that you or business you are selling to. I'm cannibalizing some of their market that may be buying from them. That could be a big issue, especially if you're selling online locally. And so be careful if you're not alienating the partners you developed to sell with, because you can very easily sell online and now start cannibalizing sales from another partner you have. So how do you sell to each? First thing you need to know, there are market segments out there. There are groups of people, and we all fit in these categories. It changes somewhat, but by and large, our nature is to fall in one of these groups. You have a price-sensitive group. They want the lowest price. Sometimes they are willing to give up quality. Some consumers are willing to give up quality for that lower price. Others not. Some want low price and high quality. Generally, those don't go hand in hand for the most part. But some people are price-sensitive. They want the lowest price they can find. Others are going to be environmental. They're going to want organic, sustainable, eco-friendly. They're going to want things that fit in those things. How are you helping the environment? Consumer definitions vary on these terms. So make sure you understand what your consumers understands. What they understand is what you mean. So if I'm saying something's organic, we know that by and large, organic is a misunderstood term. And so if I'm selling organically, most consumers, 20% of consumers think organic is local. You've got another 15% that think organic means no, you're not using any pesticides, when that's not true. So again, what do these terms mean? Make sure your clientele or whoever you're selling to understands it. If you're going to sell an origin group, they want generally locally grown or closer grown to home. Though the meaning of locally grown varies by consumer, just like for the environmental group, origin doesn't mean the same thing to everyone. So just be aware of that. Quality group may pay more for higher quality. This group really cares about the quality product. They're the group that's really looking for that your product fits sort of what they view as top quality. You can think of these as roughly environmental origin quality, or environmental origin, roughly 10 or 15% of the market, price sensitive, 20% of the market, quality, another 15%, and then whatever's left, that other 40% is non-discerning. They have this eclectic group of things that drive them to purchase. And, so, it's sort of hard to pin them down because they sort of had this sort of mix of things, and no one thing sort of dominates. So again, know your market. Who is or will be buying your product? Don't guess. If you guess, you're going to go out of business. You've got to understand exactly who's buying your product, what they want, and what sort of segment they fall into. So do your research, figure it out. It's going to vary by retail outlet. If you're going to sell to a farmer's market at a farmer's market or on the farm, you're probably targeting those origin quality groups. If you're selling in a Walmart, you're probably a price sensitive group. If you're selling, at a farmer's, at a restaurant, generally they're looking more probably that clientele is a quality group. They want something that's high quality and the quality with respect to things that they will consume. So again, understand the market, understand what, so if you're selling to a restaurant, your customer is the chef. So that's who you're selling to. If you're selling to Walmart, your income customer is that person that's buying it and taking it home. On the farm, again, origin, environmental quality, that's who's generally buying from these groups. You're selling direct to that consumer. You must market, must market to bring in customers, so must be better than competition. So you have to do a better job of understanding what they're wanting and offering them that that attribute. So if it's local, if it's environmental quality, you have to make sure you're offering that if those consumers are desiring it. So what do you do better? If you're bringing them to the farm, is it because of convenience? Is it because of things to do on the farm? Is it because I have a reputation for product quality? Is it because I'm very competitive on price, and so I'm willing to give up some price premium in order to get more people to come through? You have to have something to bring customers in and brings them back. Again, bringing them back is key here. You can't. This isn't a one-off thing on farm. This is one you have to really concentrate on bringing them back. Farmers markets, origin, environmental quality. Those are the consumer segments that are generally going to be there. You're selling direct to consumer, but there's a little bit more competition there because the person next to you, they're probably selling the same thing you're selling. So again, you're competing with those like firms at the farmers market, but to a lesser extent, other retailers. So how are you competing on price, product quality, reputation? Those are things that you really have to focus on in order to get consumers to understand and to come in and buy, is that you are meeting their needs in one of these areas better than someone else. Market segmentation, again, with respect to independent retailers, box stores, mass merchandisers, generally a lot more varied consumer segments. There is some variation in demographics, go to these different groups, different types of stores, but by and large, you're selling to all consumers. You're selling to the retailer. The retailer, though, you're selling to them with the end consumer in mind. So you need to make it easy for the retailer to market your product, but you need to do it in a way that you are realizing that you have to appeal to that end consumer and what they're going to buy. So you need to answer the following questions. Why, if you're selling to me, you need to ask yourself, why would I, as a retailer, put your product on my shelf? I'm probably having to give something up to do it. What am I gaining? Why take the risk? Why should I take the risk putting a new product that may cost me sales? Right? So those are some questions you need to really think about. In answering these questions, you need to have done your homework, right? You need to exactly know who the customer is. You want to succeed in getting your product into a box store or mass merchandise or retailer. One, you have to have the supply, but two, you have done the research to who's going to buy your product. What's your target market? Is it females that are over the age of 50 that make X dollars, that have kids that have just graduated from school? Or is it millennials that are just graduating from college? You have to have these and understand who that target market is. You have to put in the time to do the research if you're going to sell successfully in these get your product into these independent retailers, box stores, and mass merchandisers, right? You have to have that product research already done so you know that you know what you're doing. So again, think about the citrus. If you want to sell into a store, can you do a 3 to 5 pound bag if that's where they want to sell it? If you want to sell into a box store, so let's say you want to sell plants and you want to sell them into Home Depot or Lowe's, can you adhere to their production practices? Can you grow your product with not using neonicotinoids? Neonics, there we go. Can you do that in a cost-effective manner? If you can't, then box stores, mass merchandisers, independent retailers is probably not where you want to be. So again, you need to ask your question, who's your market? Who can I market to those groups? And can I meet the product specifications for these different groups to meet what they need? Because if I can't, then I probably need to find another way to sell my product. Restaurants, it matters what the chef wants. It's not looking at the final end consumer. Again, you have to meet the needs of the chef. If you're selling online, all consumer segments are there. You've got to figure out which one am I selling to. The one thing that I see the most, and when I ask this question that gets under my skin more than anything, is I'll ask producers or businesses, new and old, who is your customer? And they will say, everyone is my customer. Everyone is not your customer. They're not. Depending on how you market your product, how you price your product, all those things will dictate who your customer is. So again, who is your customer? That is who you need to focus on, right? If you pick up some other groups here or there, that's who you need to focus on, is who your customer is. So again, you're not going to satisfy everyone. You've got to satisfy the group that you're really catering to. That's who new. So if you are a high quality product and you're missing out on the price sensitive group, then you're going to miss out on the price sensitive group. You need to focus on now the higher quality, getting all those consumers in that group, that segment, and peeling off other groups that may fall in that group. So higher quality with the quality, it might be the origin group, might be the environmental group, and you just leave one segment alone and don't go after it. Right? You really have to understand your market if you want to succeed online and these other retail outlets that have higher access to higher, larger demand. So once you know that, you know who your product is or who your customer is, you know all those things, you really got to think about price. And what is the value of a product or a service to a buyer, right? Why do I buy a product? Think about products you go buy. Why do you buy it, right? Again, that benefit outweighs the cost. And that benefit may fluctuate, the cost may fluctuate, but I make decisions based on that. The benefit has to outweigh cost, right? You have to think about, are there established price points for products or services? If someone's selling, if the standard sort of market price ranges for apples or for some plants, say roses, is $1 to $2, and you come in the market at $5, you're not going to sell. So again, what is the established sort of price points, the range there that prices are for a product that you're putting, one thing about putting on the market, and how will your price compare to your competitors, right? You can't be way off. If your price is very similar to your competitor and you're selling roughly the same thing, you can't be way off and say, my product's just better, so I'm gonna charge a higher price. You have to have a reason to charge a higher price. And the conundrum we get into is that, revenue is driven by price times quantity, right? So the more we sell, the more we make. The higher the price, the more we make. Low prices, people buy more. So the problem is that we get a smaller margin being the price we sell it for and the cost it takes us to make it. We get a lower margin on each product. So we offset the lower price, the margin, with increased sales. If you have a higher price, you sell less, but you get a higher margin. So thereby now you can maybe bring in more revenue if you can increase that price and keep sales so you don't just drop off the board. So how do we develop price? Complex, can be complex math. We're gonna go over an equation in a minute. It's not complex, but once you get you to think, intuition, rules of thumb, all those things go into it. But you need to also consider what your product is, demand, the competitive environment, the product life stage, where we are. Is this a new product on the market, or has everyone else got something on there very similar? All of those things need to go into you deciding what price you're going to charge. What do you want to accomplish? Do you want to take over the market and get a big market share? Or do you want to maximize revenues, right? Again, market penetration may dictate a lower market share. Maximize revenue may mean that you want a higher price. So again, what do you want to accomplish with your price? You got to know that there is a reference value. If we're selling two apples, one is my product and one is for a competitor. If it's a close substitute, what makes it different? Is there something that value or something unique that can make my product different than another product on the market? In the case as you see it right now, my product competitor's price, exactly the same size, same color, same everything for the apple. So you have to understand, is there something different? Is there something that you can do or something you are and your product is that causes you to be different, that you might can now differentiate your value, that someone will say, okay, yes, I would pay more for Georgia grown or USDA organic or some other something that you have in the market, right? So again, you have to understand what your competitors are and how you fit and how the value you're offering varies. And just saying my product is better is not a way to do it. You have to understand Is your product better? Why is your product better? What's different? What makes me as a customer want to buy it over something else? Biggest errors we see in pricing. The one thing that when I go everywhere and talk about pricing is I ask, do you know all your costs? And the answer majority of the time is no. I do not know my costs. How can you price your product if you do not know what it costs to buy the inputs, to make the product, and to sell the product? If you don't know those, how do you know you're charging a price that's actually covering your costs? Right? And I've seen cases where we've gone in and looked at pricing firms, and they're actually losing money on every unit they sell. The price they're charging, they're losing some odd cents for every unit because they didn't know their price, they didn't know their cost, or they did not understand put all the costs in the calculation. So you have to know all your costs. If you strictly follow the lead of everyone else, right? If you say, oh, well, my neighbor, I'm selling on a farm, and my neighbor dropped the price of his apples by $1, so I'm gonna drop the price of mine. That's an issue. There may be a reason he dropped the price. Maybe his apples are going bad and yours aren't, right? So again, don't strictly follow the lead of everyone else. Follow the market, know your costs, but be aware of your competitors. So you're watching what's happening. As you move into peak season, you may realize that I need to adjust my product price down because everyone's going to sell something. So we take fruit, for instance, so apples, or peaches. If I'm on the beginning end and have a harvest, have my peaches for everyone else, I can charge a higher price. As we move into peak season, you're going to see the price should shift down. So you need to be shifting your price down, following the market as we move through. Not realizing what is unique, different about your product and pricing accordingly. Again, you need to understand what's different and how you've added value or how something you've done has added value. Not realizing whom you're selling to, realizing where you're selling at. Those are two big issues too that you need to really be aware of: who's buying your product and where they're buying it at, and that'll give you an indication of what kind of price you can charge. With respect to a formula, so a lot of you are, if you're trying to get new to pricing or trying to understand how to price, this is a formula that will help you along in that path. Understand about pricing. It looks complicated, but it's not. Basically, all we're doing is we're saying our price is some kind of a function of what we want to make profit-wise, and taking into account all the costs we have on the backside, right? So that's what we're looking at. So again, we have, and we're going to just quickly here in a second, target gross profit margin. That TM tells sort of how much do we want to make on a unit of sales. The average labor cost is how much does it cost for every unit we sell labor-wise. Ingredient costs, you could think of those as production costs. They could be, if you're doing plants, it's for fertilizers. If you're doing some kind of a value-added product, maybe it's an ingredient, you're buying sugar to put in your jam, ingredient cost. So the ingredient cost is those input costs is what it is. And you need to know the average operating costs. Operating costs, we're going to go through, but those are other things that aren't inputs and aren't labor that you're going to cost you money to get your product through the production process. Okay. So the first thing you need doing this is you need to understand how much labor you're going to need. Okay. So you need to go out and map out your production process. Okay. So you need to map out for every step of the production process, how many min and max workers does it take to do it? So in this case, if in receiving and dumping, I receive my product in and I dump the waste product or product that is low quality, then it's going to take me 2 workers. The men, it's going to take 2. I have to have 2. I don't need more or less. 2 is all I need. For washing, maybe those receivers are actually putting in some kind of machine that washes the product, so I don't need any workers. Labeling, I need 1 person there that's going to label the product or label what it is. So I have 1 worker go in that category. Sorting, depending on how much time it's going to take or how much the volume is going to come through, I maybe have between 2 and 7 workers. 2 workers at the lean time, 7 workers at the max time. Boxing, again, 2 and 8 is our min max. And then for storing, min of 1 and 3. Right. So again, you're going through and you're mapping out the production process and assigning how much labor is needed for each one of these. Okay, so then we're going to construct a table something similar to this. All this table says is min crew, max crew, how many labor standard, how much can they do an hour, right? So you've got to figure out, in this case, how much can a worker, what is their efficiency rate? What can they do in an hour? In this case, 3,000 pounds per hour is what they can do. Each worker, so machine capacity, each worker can do 3,000 pounds, so 2 times 3,000 is 6,000 pounds an hour. Okay, washing, I have a machine that can do 8,000 pounds. Labeling, I have a worker that can do 7,000 units. So I can do 7,000 pounds is what I can do per hour. And go down the line. So sorting, I can do 2, so I have a man, a crew of 2, a max crew of 7. They can do 900 pounds each. So on max, I can do 6,300 pounds per hour. All right, so we go down and we do this. We set these labor standards, what our efficiency of our workers is for each one. In this case, then we set our wage rate. We're going to pay $8 for each worker receiving dumping. We're going to do 10 for storage. Maybe that's a job that takes more skills. So we're going to have our wage rate, how much we're paying per hour. In this case, 2, they're sort of these administration. You know, they really don't have a labor standard. They do as it comes in, and we're going to pay them $20. Is what we're going to pay them an hour, $10 an hour for $20, right? Or we're going to pay them $20 an hour. Okay. So again, we're setting up a table like this to understand how exactly our labor is being used and how efficient it is and what the cost is. Okay. Once we get that done, we're going to create a table like this. And what this is saying is, how much can I produce an hour? That's this quantity per pounds per hour, or it could be plants per hour, or whatever per units per hour. 1 to 1,800, 1,801 to 2,000. Again, you're going to make these categories sort of like you see fit. You're going to go through at 1 to 1,800. I'm going to have 2 people, and I'm going to pay them $16, $8 a piece. So $16 per hour is the total amount of wage I'm going to spend on these workers. And I would do this across. And then if I move up to larger groups, if I move to 6,000 pounds, I'm going to have 7 workers here because I need 7 workers to do 6,000 pounds. Because remember, I can do 6,300 pounds, but I need all 7 workers. So in this case, this 6,000 pounds, I'm going to have 7 workers. So now I have that how much it's going to cost me to do 7 workers. It's going to cost me $59 an hour. 7 workers times, for the boxing was $8.50. So 7 times 8.50, $59.50 per hour. So then we sum across how much it can cost. It's going to cost $108 per hour to do labor, to do 1 to 1,800 pounds. It's going to cost us $213 to do 5,400 to 6,000 pounds. Okay, so now we have this. Now what we're doing is we're just dividing C by B. So how many hours, how much is the total labor cost? In this case, $108 per hour by the max quantity to give us a average labor cost per pound, right? So that's what we're doing. That's where that number comes from. And we're picking the minimum value of average labor cost. That's what we're using to put in to our price. So we know how much labor we're using. We know we mapped out each point in the production process. We've got our labor now of how much we're going to use, min and max. We figured out how much we're going to use each one of these different quantities we're producing. And now we've come through and figured out how much it's going to cost, the total labor cost, and we've got our max quantity. Now we can come up with average labor cost. Again, Blake has this, maybe wants it to look through it. And if you have questions, feel free. But you guys can have this to do through the calculations yourself. So once we have that, now that's our ALC and our price formula. For average ingredient cost or input cost, this is simply a recipe. What you're doing is you're multiplying each ingredient or each input you have times the amount used. So it could be fertilizer, 5 pounds of fertilizer times $2 a pound for $10. And once we get all that, now we can multiply the result by the price to get that that final cost for. And now we can multiply it over our different volumes that we're going to use, or different, and to get an average input cost that we're going to use. Excel is a wonderful way to set these things up. It's a wonderful way to do average ingredient cost, average labor cost, and average operating cost. So it doesn't take sophisticated software to do it. An easy way to do it. For average ingredient cost, input cost, average operating cost, those are our utilities, our business license, the taxes, rent, all those things. We're going to convert everything into a cost per unit produced. And then we're going to get, assuming the plant speed for the average calculations. So again, all these are based on the labor speed, or the speed of volume we're going to bring through. That's the one we're going to really take into account here on the average operating cost and on the average input cost. So now we're adding everything up. And so the final piece of the puzzle is that target margin. A good starting point is 20%. I want to make 20% on every product I sell. You may have several margins depending on where you sell. You may have a lower margin for higher volume customers. A higher margin for small orders. You could have a higher margin for if you're selling at a farmer's market, and a lower volume if you're, or higher volume if you're selling on the farm, and a lower volume if you're selling at a farmer's market because there's more competition. So again, you need to figure out what margin you want to do that that you're comfortable with to set up in your pricing. And what is a margin you refuse to go below? There may be a 5%. If you go below 5%, that it's not worth it to you. So again, what is that margin that you want to achieve? Then we just plug in. We have our total, our profit margin. We have our average labor cost, average ingredient input cost, and we have our average operating cost. And we just multiply it out, divide it, multiply it out, and that comes up with a price that we should be charging. Right. So this is a very easy way to come up with a price. I say easy. It's a very quantifiable way to come up with price. Take into account your cost, and then what do you sort of make margin on each product sold, and then it spits out a price. Other ways, penetration pricing. Once you get a feel for your pricing, penetration, lower price, you sell you want to get market share, so you lower price to pull in consumers, and that's a way just to grab quick market share. Skimming the market. This is a case where you charge a higher price, and I'm making my money on that extra margin I get. I'm selling less, but I'm getting my margin on that extra amount I'm getting per consumer as I sell. Cost-based pricing. This is just where I add a constant margin. This is very similar. This is almost exactly like what we did a minute ago on the pricing formula. You're adding some kind of margin to your cost. So it costs you $2 to produce your product. I add 10% on top of that to get my. So everything I sell, I'm adding 10% on the cost. That's what I'm getting. That's another strategy you can use. Competitive pricing. I look around and match my competitors. Again, there are issues with that, especially if you don't know what's happening in the market or if you're undervaluing your product. And value-based pricing, that's where you really get in there and you set a price that's slightly above or below the set level that consumers value it at. Discount pricing, that's where we're setting a price to do a volume discount. So if someone comes in and they're buying in bulk, maybe I have a different price for those and I give a discount if they are buying. You'll see this sometimes. People do cash discount. So it costs you 3 to 5% to do a credit card purchase. If somebody pays in cash, then they get a discount on pricing because you can charge them, you give them 2% less, and you save what that 3% or 2 or 3% that you would have paid a credit card if they pay with cash. Loss leader, this is where you see this a lot in retail, big retail, where they will mark down like milk, get consumers to come in. This is something you can do if you can. There's a product that people are coming to buy, and you can mark a higher margin on other products. So if I get them to buy come in to get one product that you're selling, then they might buy a lot more other stuff in order that you can make up that loss that you took on that one product. For plants, you might have a pairing of products that maybe you take a loss on one, but you get, if they buy both, which they're probably going to do if they're paired, then I take a loss on one, but I get a higher margin on the other. So thereby now I offset the loss on one and I make up and get a higher overall revenue because I sold two different products. I took a loss on one and gained more on the other. Things you need to think about pricing-wise, psychological pricing. There's a reason prices end in 9, because people round down. Putting buy one, get one free and those type things actually do drive up sales. Limit per drive up sales because people don't want to be left out or not get everything they want. So definitely 30, 40% more in sales if you use the buy one, get, or if you use a some kind of limit sign, say limit up. So, those are different ways you can price. Recommendations to pricing, know your costs, all of them, know your markets. You need to know what segments are out there, conditions. You need to put together a business plan. As Vanessa was saying, you need to know what you do well and what you want to accomplish. And you need to run price simulations. You need to understand what your break even, what is the least amount you can take to price your product, and what is the least amount of quantity you can sell. You need to do those things so you can understand how much you can charge and how that's going to affect as you tinker with price, what's going to happen. So that being said, this is a list of questions that I think Blake sent me from the other day that he had gotten sort of fit in sort of this realm of marketing and sales. I'll go through them real quickly. Grants, financial resources. There are resources out there that can help you in your business that do these things. There are resources with respect to help you do a marketing plan. I think the Center for Small Business Development, that they're going to give it. Somebody's going to give from there. It's going to be doing one of the talks and workshops in a couple of weeks. They can really answer this question and put you in the right places. But there are grants and financial resources out there. How do I set my price? I think I fairly answered that. How do I compete price-wise with other competitors, such as grocery stores? You've really got to understand what they're doing. How are you different? Where are you selling? If you are selling at farmer's market or on the farm, you're competing with grocery stores, but you're not competing them with it directly. So you got to understand that you can more than likely charge a price premium, but you can't just charge anything you want. Selling online is a great way to sell your product. Generally, it depends. It's a high startup cost because you probably have to have some kind of software to really get you started to keep track of everything. You need to set limits on how far you're shipping, the product quality guarantees you have, who pays for shipping. Why should I buy from you when I can buy from Kroger and do in-store pickup, right? So those are things you need to really answer and think about before you start selling online. Cost analysis will be a couple weeks. Does Georgia publish a wholesale index for sale of produce? I'll show you that in a second because yes, they do. What are possible outlets for the produce that we may not be thinking about? Depends on how big you are. School systems, if you can go join in with another, depends on what you're selling, but like fresh fruit and those type of things, school systems can do one-offs where they can do product for the whole state. That happened when I was in Alabama. A bunch of citrus growers in South Alabama, they went in and pulled all the product and sold Satsuma mandarins to the school system, and every student in the state got a Satsuma mandarin one day out of the school year. Why? They introduced them to this product, and it got them some advantages there. So school systems, prisons, jails, school systems, not public, private school systems, private schools where they may not go through the same guidelines of buying product. They might buy in lower, smaller quantities. CSAs, Vanessa talked about, and you may want to produce for another producer. It could be that someone's selling at a CSA or selling to a bigger outlet, and you can sell to them, and they can now turn around and resell your product as part of their volume to someone else. So producer to producer is another way to sell. Best way to provide info on traditional use of herbs without making claims to their medicinal value. Again, you can claim things that can be used. Again, this is probably better for the Small Business Development Center, but you can make claims that that have been scientifically proven. It comes down to wording a lot of times. So product X has been used to treat Y versus product X will cure Y, right? So again, CBD oils does a good job of this with respect to in that realm. So again, how you word, and I mean, it has been used versus it cures. There's a difference there that can get you in trouble if you use it wrong. Is it more profitable to sell my goats in an auction or another buyer, such as meat market individuals? It all depends. This is where you need to watch the market. Probably the best thing would be to diversify and look at the market prices you're getting, and then at the auction barn. And if you're getting prices, say at $50 is what the price you're getting in an auction barn, and then you probably shouldn't sell less than $50 individual. So way to think about it would be to sell in both ways. You sell it individual and you sell at the auction barn for those products. Those animals did not sell to individuals. Again, this is highly dependent on sort of where you're at, how much it costs to get to the auction barn, what type of market you have set up for individuals buying or other consumers buying. So again, there's no direct answer, but generally thinking about it as two avenues would be a good way to think about it. There are goat reports out there. AMS USDA has goat reports for Georgia sale barns, so you can look back at historical of what goat prices are. Licenses, I think that's going to be addressed in a couple weeks, and local state permits. With respect to last slide, I think if you're looking for prices for fruit and vegetables, there are USDA prices, terminal prices that you can find with respect to fruit and vegetables. If you're doing plants, there's no such resource. For cattle, there are resources. For most products, you can find prices out there to help you understand what the market is. This is AMS, the Ag Marketing Service, the USDA does a good job. There are also wholesale market bulletins from the Georgia.gov that have them. These market bulletins, also some licensing information there as well. So the place to start for pricing and for helping develop market would probably be the Department of Ag in Georgia, and to understand wholesale the prices, market reports for prices in the state, as well as other resources they have available. With that, I think I pretty much hopefully covered a lot that can help you in understanding your markets and understanding pricing. With that, I'm done. Any questions?
Dr. Campbell, I see one in the group chat here. It says, how do you price meat when different cuts have different values? Is there a formula or a table for this?
I would say use the same. You can use, well, so you can start out by knowing with respect to it, different. Does it take more or less time or labor or resources to do those cuts of meat? If the answer is yes, then you need to take those costs into account. If the answer is no, are there different packaging that you're going to have to use? If yes, then you're going to have to take those into account. The way to now think about it is look at the market and where are you going to sell it. Again, if you're selling a cut of meat at a grocery store, they're going to set the price for you. If you're selling a cut of meat on the farm, now with respect to, you should be able to charge a higher price than what a grocery store is getting. What exactly that price is, I would know my market and I would try to figure out what profit margin am I happy with, right? And I mean, that's the way to go about it, is understanding the market. I know it's a very generic answer, but a lot depends on where you're selling it and the market, who is coming to buy it. Those are some big things that are unknown there that really would play a big role on what price you sell.
All right, thank you. I don't see any more in the chat box. There was a lot of information that was covered. And Kathleen, I hope that answered your question. I think going forward, sending this out to all y'all, having y'all look at it over PDF. I think Dr. Campbell put his email on the first slide. I'm sure he wouldn't mind if y'all did have a question, if you contacted him. He wouldn't mind that at all. Same with Miss Vanessa. She put her contact information on her slides as well. I'll get out to y'all. Tonight, I want to say thank you to Dr. Campbell and Ms. Schantwaller for speaking. These two topics, marketing and sales, are very vast, very large, very intricate, but also extremely important to everybody, whether you're in an agribusiness, a farm setting, any kind of business setting, really. So thank y'all for taking on those two and presenting some really great information catered towards the people that are participating here tonight and those that couldn't even be on here tonight. That, without any other further questions, would wrap us up for this evening. Next week, we'll have the Georgia Grown, Georgia Department of Ag, food pick, and a local farmer down there in Ware County speak. So I'm looking forward to that one next week. I hope to see all y'all there. But that'll about do it for tonight. So I'll go ahead and sign off. Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you. Yeah, no Millie, Foxy, Blake, Carter. Hey, Blake. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye, Miss Vanessa.
Yeah, thank you again for having me.
Thank you for helping me out.